The winter meetings are just around the corner, and already the Rangers are getting linked to a couple of the best pitchers on this free agent market. On today's show, we're talking about why Rangers signing Sasaki may not be as far fetched as you think. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Paddock, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Paddock. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, we're talking about the Rangers getting linked to Max Fried, why the Rangers are being listed as one of the favorite spots for signing Japanese star Roki Sasaki, and a few looks at some pitchers the Rangers could trade for in these winter meetings coming up next week. Before we get into that, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Now, let's start with the Max Fried news. This is coming out of Evan Grant of the Dallas Morning News, listing 5 different players the Rangers could be connected to at the winter meetings on Monday. The next 3-day span from Monday to Wednesday, the winter meetings will be held in Dallas, where the Rangers could be linked to these players. Now, Evan Grant is one of the most connected Rangers writers, one of the longest tenured Rangers writers. There's not a whole lot that's leaking out from this Rangers front office, with Pobo Chris Young electing to be a little more secretive than his predecessor, John Daniels. So there really haven't been a whole lot of breadcrumbs left out there for what the Rangers are actually looking for, or, reports of, oh, they're talking to this guy or making deals with this guy. So this is about as strong of an indicator as we can get. This was not him reporting that, hey, the Rangers have made an offer. This is him reading the tea leaves, and he reads a lot of tea leaves and has for many, many moons, about who the Rangers might end up looking at. Now he lists 5 players, and the first one it feels like a cop-out because it's literally the most obvious thing, and Nathan Eovaldi. The Rangers have already said publicly that they're looking for a Nathan Eovaldi reunion. That feels like it's going to be one of their top priorities. I think Sasaki should be priority number 1, but that, I think, will take a lot longer than what's happening at the winter meetings. I think most of these free agents will be signed before Sasaki, at least these big names. So Evo, not anything too crazy. And then the second name on this list, which I hadn't thought about much before, but makes sense the more I think about it. They have him listed as right-handed pitcher, even though he is clearly a left-handed pitcher. That's right. It is Braves former ace Max Fried, a guy who is going to be one of the top pitchers on this market. Not the top one. Corbin Burns is going to be that guy. One of the things that Evan Grant wrote in this column, in the precursor, the thesis statement page, whatever the first couple paragraphs are, he mentioned the Rangers are not going to be in on Juan Soto in those sweepstakes at all, just completely taking the wind out of any of those sails. They're also not going to be in on Alex Bregman. Not really a shocker there. The fact that they're not going to be in on Corbin Burns makes sense given where their finances are and what their priorities are this offseason. A little bit of a bummer to see, but hey, the Rangers being linked as a potential Max Fried landing spot. One of the things that Evan writes is that if the Eovaldi market gets really high in the AAV, and it's going to be in the shorter term range, maybe the Rangers could look for something that AAV wise might be similar. Might even be a little bit lower, but longer term. And Fried is that option. I mean, of these guys on this market, Fried is heading into his age 31 season, and he's been fantastic and mostly pretty darn durable and mostly pretty darn good. Now, he hasn't won a Cy Young. He hasn't won a World Series MVP or anything of that nature, but he's been just a solid, one of the best, 10 or so pitchers in baseball for the last 5 seasons, basically since 2020. He has just been incredibly consistent and incredibly good, which is a hard combination to find. I mean, in the last 6 years, he has logged 100 more innings than Nathan Eovaldi. He has also got the best ERA in baseball since 2020, even better than Corbin Burns. That is a minimum of 500 innings, as Evan Grant wrote in this. He's talking about the turn in the TV deal is going to have an impact on this, how the Rangers are looking at spending their money. But it's looking like it might be in the $25-ish million AAV range. I mean, right now, MLB Trade Rumors projects 6 years, $156 million. That is $26 million average annual value. I've seen different Eovaldi contracts listed as somewhere between the 20 to 25-ish million dollar range. I mean, Spotrac has it been projected for 2 years, $50 million. And would you rather spend $25 million a year for 2 years on Eovaldi, or $26 million for 6 years for Max Fried? That's a difficult question. I think it's really interesting. And of the big pitchers on this list, Fried has been a guy who I've looked at for a Rangers target for quite a while. I mean, this is a very big class of free agent starting pitchers. I mean, the fact that Fried is maybe the second or third or maybe even fourth, depending on what you're looking for, best pitcher on this free agent market, just starting pitchers. That's insane, because this guy has multiple top 10 Cy Young finishes, finished fifth in 2020, finished second in 2022. He has been an all-star multiple times. He has won a Gold Glove 3 times. He has also won the last Silver Slugger that any pitcher will win. Non-two-way player edition. Shohei Ohtani does not count because they're not awarding a Silver Slugger for an actual pitcher. So he won the 2021 Silver Slugger award before. No more pitchers were hitting unless they were named Shohei Ohtani or weird things were happening. But he has been mostly durable in his career. 30 starts in 2022, 29 starts in 2024, 28 in 21, 30 starts in 2019. Also made all of his starts a really perfect 7-0 in that COVID-shortened season, but missed a decent chunk of time in 2023 with a couple of random injuries. He had hamstring tightness in one of the first games, I believe actually his first game of the season, trying to feel the ball and then pulled up, and he missed a couple of weeks early on in the season. Then on May 5th, he had a forearm strain. He missed 3 months with that injury, came back and just was fine, pretty fine after that. But the injury that really cost him was the blister that he suffered in mid to late September. Came back for the NLDS, but just wasn't right. He is a guy who throws 7 different pitches, and he has impeccable command. He does not walk guys. 2.5 walks per 9 innings in his big league career. That's really darn good. Also limits hard contact. Also has been very, very good at limiting home runs in his career. But he's got 7 different pitches. Basically the definition of a crafty lefty. He has an extreme ground ball rate, and he is the kind of guy who I think the Rangers would love to have in their rotation. This year, he missed a little bit of time, 24 days to be specific, with forearm neuritis, which is a pinched nerve. Not that big a deal. Looked pretty fine when he came back. He has had some successful postseasons, but also some postseason starts where he has gotten blown up, including this year, including in 2023 last year. But he looked really, really good for the Braves in 2020 in that weird formatted playoffs where everyone was in the bubble, and he looked just really darn good. He also looked pretty good when the Braves won it all in 2021. Was not his best self, but was good enough to help the Braves win that World Series against the Astros. Love to see that. But if it comes down to it, Evo versus Fried, I think I lean more towards the Fried side. I don't know exactly how high the dollar figure is going to get for Fried. I don't think that Fried is going to sign until after Soto, because I think there are quite a few teams that are going to be in on Soto, mainly the Boston Red Sox. They've been linked very, very heavily to Max Fried. I think the Baltimore Orioles are a destination that would make a lot of sense. The Blue Jays have been talked about as a landing spot for him, as well as the San Francisco Giants, who have a pretty good history of being a good team. And also for the last few years, they have been champing at the bit to get one of those big free agents, just missing out on guys like Carlos Correa, guys like Aaron Judge, and maybe Max Fried is the next one that they miss out on. But I would love a Fried signing. The other names in that list are already guys that I had looked at for the most part outside of Justin Turner. I don't love that. A DH that it is a DH only. He hits lefties well, but doesn't have the same pop that he did before. Also lists a couple of relievers who I've talked about before on this show, Andrew Kittredge and Colin Poche, who, is a solid left-handed reliever. He's going to make less than $3 million this year. He is a Flower Mound Marcus grad, also went to Dallas Baptist University. So some DFW ties there for sure. I think those are interesting names, but none of them nearly as interesting as Max Fried. I would love the Rangers to target Max Fried. And even if they don't get Max Fried, a guy who I'm much, much higher on for the long-term potential and maybe even short-term potential is the Japanese ace or potential future ace in Roki Sasaki. Coming up, we're talking about why the Rangers make sense as a landing destination and a couple of different big sources that mention the Rangers as maybe not the favorites, but a very good landing spot for the next Japanese star. Talk about all that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is the best place to get tickets for all the live events you're looking to go to. Whether it's sports, whether it's music, whether it's comedy, theater, no matter what it is, Gametime is the best place to get those tickets. And Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets to your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of ticket sites. They've got all kinds of different great features like the Gametime Picks that I just talked about. They've also got seat views, so you can see a panoramic view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what it's going to look like when you get there. They've also got your purchase covered by the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? It's game time. Now, the Rangers, Roki Sasaki is a big target for them, even though they have not explicitly said it, even though they would never say it outright, because we know this about the Rangers. This is a team that is aggressive internationally. This is a team that signed Yu Darvish, one of the best Japanese pitchers of all time. He was one of the best Texas Rangers pitchers of all time. He made a big, big impact for the Texas Rangers in the years that he was here. But the next Japanese star pitcher coming over is the young man, Roki Sasaki, the 23-year-old who will be posted this winter. Whether he signs before Christmas or maybe closer to January, it depends. Basically, since he is an international free agent, some of the rules are a little different than him just being a regular straight-up free agent. And because he's being posted before he's 25 and has logged 6 seasons, he is going to be treated like an international free agent, which is an international amateur free agent, I should say, which is basically how Shohei came over. So instead of making a bazillion dollars like Yoshinobu Yamamoto did this past year, because he was 25 and he had spent 6 seasons over in Japan, he is foregoing a lot of that money, and you have to use your international bonus pool money to sign him. Now, why does that matter? Well, it's because the Rangers have a decent chunk of change in there. And Ben Badler of Baseball America, who's talking on the Hot Sheet podcast about why the Rangers are among his 7 most likely teams to sign Roki Sasaki. One of the things he mentioned was the importance of being competitive. Since he just wants to get over here as fast as possible, he is willing to give up a lot of money, and he is going to want to compete for the 6 seasons that whatever team signs him will get him before he hits regular MLB free agency. So he'll just go through that pre-arb process. So he'll be pre-arbitration for his first 3 seasons, making MLB minimum. Then he'll go through arb for 3 seasons or so. But the Rangers would one of the only teams that was listed that didn't make the playoffs this past year, but is still a likely landing spot. One of the things that he said was, quote, Ben Badler, I'm talking about from Baseball America, quote, they've been positioning themselves for a while now to make a strong run at Sasaki. This is typically a team that internationally is one of the most aggressive teams and being very competitive early on for prospects, end quote. He ends up mentioning that, there's no big bonus guys in the Rangers class for 2025, which is probably when he's going to sign. So more teams will have more money to go spend on him to give his team, the Chiba Lotte Marines, more money for posting him. This is kind of a deal for them. They had not much real incentive to post him early other than just kind of doing him a favor. Also, there was maybe a little bit of deal agreed to before under the table when he signed out of being drafted, out of high school, of saying like, hey, whenever I'm ready for MLB, you guys have to post me. You can't just keep holding on to me just to make more money. And this is a nice move by the club, and also something I think was probably always going to happen. He has to be posted last year, was not posted last year. This guy has special potential. And one of the things that Badler said is, quote, more so than almost every other team out there, they have a bunch of uncommitted money remaining. Talking about the Rangers. Seems like Texas has been preparing for a while to make a hard push to try and sign Sasaki, end quote. A hard push for a while. That seems like this team. I honestly think that even before he was fired, GM John Daniels had definitely earmarked this off season, heck, maybe even a little bit looking at last off season, at Roki Sasaki being a guy that the Rangers had looked at for years and years and years. I mean, heck, when Chris Young was announced his extension and promotion to president of baseball operations, he was in Japan. Probably scouting Roki Sasaki. Probably were a few other players that he might have been looking at as well. But Sasaki is the gem of this class. Maybe not quite as much as Juan Soto, but because of how inexpensive he is going to be, every team can afford him. Every team's going to be in on him. And the Rangers have a good history of not only being one of the most recent World Series champions, not named the Los Angeles Dodgers. They have a lot of bright prospects. They have Kumar Rocker. They have Jacob deGrom coming back. They have obviously the two stars up the middle in Seager and Semien. They have young stars in Wyatt Langford and Evan Carter, and also Josh Young. I mean, this is a solid team with a lot of reasons to bet on their upside and their ability to be competitive for the first 5-6 seasons of Roki Sasaki's MLB career. And one of the things that really turned my head was this ESPN Plus article by Jeff Passan and Buster Olney. They were talking about what Roki Sasaki's name, how much Roki Sasaki's name will be brought up this winter, and what their expectations are as for where he is going to sign, what teams are going to be in on him, what teams he is going to be in on. Olney wrote that the widespread industry belief, correct or not, he clarified that Roki Sasaki has already probably picked a team, and it's most likely the Dodgers, but they're going to go through the process anyway. And then Jeff Passan comes in and writes, hey, not so fast, because the industry should not forget about the San Diego Padres, Texas Rangers, and Chicago Cubs. Those are the three teams that Jeff Passan lists as potential Roki Sasaki landing spots. He says, quote, nor should they forget when Ohtani's free agent process was playing out, the Los Angeles Angels were never mentioned among the favorites. The Rangers were also not mentioned among the favorites at that time. They ended up being the second place finisher in the Ohtani original sweepstakes. Man, how different would things have been if the Rangers were the spot where Shohei Ohtani landed the first time around. Maybe Wyatt Langford doesn't end up as a member of the Texas Rangers. Maybe all kinds of different things go very, very differently. But that's two different big national sources that are saying, hey, don't sleep on the Rangers as a team that can sign Roki Sasaki. This is a top priority for Texas, has been a top priority for Texas. This is something I think Chris Young probably won't admit to it being their number one priority this free agency, this offseason, but I think it's got to be priority number one. This is a 23-year-old, future potential ace that you will have for 6 seasons, that you don't have to stink for an entire year to go and draft, like a Paul Skeens, like a Kamar Rocker, like a Jack Leiter. This is a guy that you can go out and get if you convince him to sign with your team. Convince him that this is the best place for you. The Rangers have a lot of factors in their favor. Like I said, all of that young talent, not to mention just winning a World Series in 2023. They can tell him, hey, we need you. You will be, a valued frontline member of this rotation. You can go follow in the footsteps of your hero, Yu Darvish, who pitched here for quite some time. You are not going to be the third most famous Japanese player on your team. You are going to be the most famous Japanese player on your team if you come to Texas. Oh, and by the way, you see that guy, Kyle Higashioka, who caught quite a few of your mentor, Yu Darvish's games? Yeah, he could be your personal catcher if you sign here. Not to mention their ties with Dr. Keith Meister, who is the elbow specialist of the world, the best elbow specialist. He's the Rangers team doctor. He is, based in Arlington. So the Rangers medical staff could be another feather in their cap for this young star that has already had a few injuries, hasn't had Tommy John surgery yet. I anticipate he probably will at some point in his career, but maybe the Rangers can hold that off. Maybe the Rangers can keep him healthy. Maybe the Rangers can convince him, hey, don't go sign with those stupid Dodgers. Don't do what everyone thinks you're going to do. Heck, don't even go and play with your mentor, Yu Darvish. Come here, sign with Texas, and heck, maybe win a second championship with the Texas Rangers, or who knows, maybe 3 or 4. If Roki Sasaki signs here, who knows what the ceiling could be for these Texas Rangers. Speaking of some pitchers that the Rangers could be acquiring this offseason, let's look at some trade targets and talk a little bit more about that catcher, Kyle Higashioka, and how much he's going to be playing for Texas right after this. The show is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Right now, there has been, I think, a little bit of movement. I thought the Dodgers were at plus 330. Now they're at plus 370 as the favorites to win the 2025 World Series as of this recording on a Thursday afternoon. The Yankees, second favorites, plus 650. The Braves at plus 850. And the Rangers still down there in the middle of the pack at 14 at plus 3,300. The Rangers signed Roki Sasaki. I guarantee you those odds would change in a big way. Heck, even if they signed Max Fried as well, those odds would change in a big way. So go head over to FanDuel.com to join the day, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Now let's talk briefly about the Rangers catching situation. The Rangers made their first free agent signing this week, signing catcher Kyle Higashioka to a 2-year, $13.5 million deal with a mutual option for the third year on that deal. Higashioka has spent some time mostly with the New York Yankees, but then was a part of the Juan Soto trade, will be a fun fact for the entirety of his career. Spent last year with the San Diego Padres, had a career high 17 home runs, and the Rangers signed him thinking, yeah, there's definitely some pop there. This is an elite game planner. That is one of the things that the Rangers really, really loved about him. He's got meticulous attention to detail when he is game planning how to approach opposing hitters as the catcher for the day. And the Rangers have said he is going to not just be a backup to Jonah Heim, but he is going to split time. Catching duties will be levied out evenly between the two early on, and then depending on performance, that will be the deciding factor of who ends up getting more starts down the stretch. Now, why does this matter really at all? It's a good thing for Jonah Heim, and it's a good thing for the Rangers. Now, you may be thinking, why are the Rangers bringing in a 35-year-old backup to take starts away from the guy who was an all-star and a Gold Glover in 2023? Are they really that down on Jonah? I think the answer is unequivocally probably not. So maybe not unequivocally, but just probably not. The Rangers have voiced their appreciation for Jonah Heim, but the fact of the matter is Jonah's coming off of a really, really down year. And also he's been carrying a very, very heavy workload the last few seasons as the Rangers' everyday catcher. They were hoping that Kisner could get him off his feet a little bit more this past year, but Kisner was just straight up awful. But early on in the seasons, Jonah Heim has been a fast starter, but down the stretch, his offense has really tended to fall off a cliff. And that's because he's catching so many freaking games, including in that World Series run. So I think adding Higashioka and giving him some reps at catcher is going to be a good thing for both Jonah Heim and Kyle Higashioka. Now, before we get out of here, let's look at 3 different pitchers that the Rangers could trade for this winter. The first one is the most obvious name, the name that a lot of people are looking at trading for. That's Garrett Crochet, heading into his age 26 season, the left-handed pitcher for the Chicago White Sox, the All-Star for the first time in his career this year. He missed all of 2022. In 2023, he was a reliever. In 2021, he was a reliever. In 2020, he was a reliever. And this year, the White Sox said, heck, let's make you a starter. And all he did was go out and be absolutely sensational. Now, I don't think I've seen very many years where a starting pitcher makes 32 starts and has under 150 innings. But in those 150 innings, granted, he did have a 3.5 ERA. The ERA plus was at 115, so still better than league average, but 209 strikeouts. That's 12.3 Ks per 9. This guy was absolutely electric. His fastball is absolutely sensational. The breaking stuff is, not great this year, but the fastball just plays so freaking well, averaging 97.1 miles an hour as a left-handed starting pitcher. He's also got a cutter that he uses 28% of the time, so he's mostly four-seamer cutter. He's also got a sweeper and a changeup and also a sinker. So really, the breaking stuff is just the sweeper. I think the Rangers might end up tweaking that sweeper because not a whole lot of their pitchers actually use sweepers. But he has not even turned 26 just yet. The 6'6", 245-pound lefty had been a starting pitcher out of college, but then was moved to the bullpen. And the transition this year, it could not have gone better for the White Sox, who yet again pull an ace out of nowhere. I mean, you look at the amount of homegrown aces around the league. There are not many teams over the last 10 years that have done it more often than the White Sox. I mean, Chris Sale, you have guys like Lucas Giolito. I mean, you have guys like Carlos Rodon, now Garrett Crochet. I mean, it's kind of insane the amount of homegrown aces that this team has been able to kind of pull out of nowhere. Crochet is going to make 2.9, around $3 million in arbitration this year, has one more season of club control after that. But still, he's still very, very young. It was absolutely one of the breakout stars. One of the only good things happening. Actually, no, he was the only good thing that happened to Chicago White Sox in 2024, outside of them firing their very terrible manager who just did not get that he had a bad club and could not manage like it was a bad club. Crochet is going to cost quite a bit of prospect capital because he's so cheap, because he has multiple years of control, and because he is so gosh darn good. The White Sox don't mind waiting out a deal. I'm sure there were plenty of teams just screaming to try and get Crochet at the deadline this year, but they just couldn't do it because the White Sox GM Chris Getz says, no, I will be waiting for the deal that I want. And it seems like if he doesn't get that deal, then he doesn't mind holding on to him into 2025. I don't think the same will be said about Luis Robert, who I talked about on yesterday's show, where I talked about bats the Rangers could trade for. I think they are very anxious to get what value they can out of Robert. Next guy on this list is Devin Williams. Yes, I am including a reliever on here, even though I have said many, many times that reliever trades actually scare the crap out of me. Those are the ones that can end up looking really, really terrible, especially when it's for 1 year of a reliever. At least this would be a full season of a reliever. I mean, heck, the most lopsided trade in Rangers franchise history was trading for Aroldis Chapman. The Rangers gave up Cole Reagans, who is going to be probably a multi-time All-Star, might end up even winning a Cy Young, a left-handed ace. But the Rangers won the World Series, so it's hard to be whining too much about it. But trading for 1 year of a closer would be kind of terrifying. He only has 1 year of control left. He was going to have a team option that was declined, but he's going to go through the arbitration process. It's very confusing. But since he missed a lot of time this year with a back injury, he had a $10.5 million club option for 2025. But the Brewers are declining that option. So he will receive, I believe it is $250,000 as the buyout. So that'll just go on to what he makes in arbitration, which is projected for around $7.7 million. So even with that $250K, he will end up making significantly less than the $10.5 million club option, which might have been cheaper than what he would have made in arbitration had he been healthy all year. But this has just been one of the best closers in baseball. He was a Rookie of the Year in 2020 when he made his debut. The shortened season, still one of the more amazing single season performances. I know it was only a 60-game season, but he pitched in more than a third of the games that year. 22 games for him in that 2020 shortened season, a .33 ERA, 27 innings, 53 strikeouts. That's 17.7 Ks per nine. He won Rookie of the Year. He got MVP votes. He was 7th in Cy Young voting. He's the reason the Brewers said, yeah, we can go ahead and trade Josh Hader away because we've got next Josh Hader. And he's got a 1.83 career ERA in 241 games across 6 seasons. He was dynamite last year when he came back from the back injury, a 1.25 ERA, 21 2/3 innings, 38 strikeouts, 14.3 Ks per nine in his career. This is just one of the best closers in baseball. I mean, he is a magician. He's got an incredible fastball and a changeup that's called an airbender changeup that is also kind of a screwball, and maybe it's not. It's a fascinating pitch that is just absolutely unhittable. He's heading into his age 30 season. He's not going to make all that much money in terms of what it would cost for 1 year of a free agent closer. I think it's probably going to cost around $14 million for Kirby Yates. So would you rather pay $7.7 million for Devin Williams and whatever prospect capital he is going to command because he's not signing back for the Brewers? That's just not happening. They have a history of pissing off their own players by declining options and doing weird things, and they just aren't players in free agency. So I think this is an interesting candidate for the Rangers to look at. One last guy before we get out of here, that is the 27-year-old left-handed pitcher of the Miami Marlins, Jesus Luzardo. He missed a lot of time this past year. He has been brilliant in the past, including 2022 and in 2023. Last year, he did not pitch all that much, only 12 starts for him, a ERA exactly at 5.0. Still, because he missed a lot of time with injuries, including a stress reaction in his lower back. That ended his season on June 16th. So only 12 starts last year, but the year before, around a 3.5 ERA, a 4 WAR season, 32 starts for him, just shy of 180 innings and had 208 strikeouts the year before, a 3.3 ERA with Miami as a 24-year-old, a 2 WAR season. Granted, he only made 18 starts, only 103 innings, but 120 strikeouts. This is a guy who I don't think would be nearly as costly as Garrett Crochet. The Rangers would have to be believers in his health. He's heading into his age 27 season, so a little bit older than Garrett Crochet, a little bit more of a track record as a starter than Garrett Crochet. He's got 89 starts in the 6 seasons of his career, but he's had some injuries that have caused him to miss time. I'm weirdly more sure about the durability of Garrett Crochet, even though he hasn't started. He just started starting again last year, but definitely an interesting name who I think the Marlins might be selling a little low on if they traded him now, but someone who I think the Rangers will at the very least kick the tires on. That's going to do it for this week's shows, barring some kind of big old news happening before the winter meetings start on Monday. We're almost there to the juicy part of the offseason. We're going to start getting moves left, right, and center. That'll do it for this week's shows. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.